It's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little money in a long period of time. That is a quote that my mentor, Dr. Myron Golden, uses all the time that I've been able to apply in the midterm rental space, and I want to share that with you. My name is Ruben Kanya. I'm a temporary housing specialist where we've helped investors and operators nationwide maximize what they can generate at the midterm rentals by strategically working with business to business companies, specifically insurance. And my goal in this video, I want to show you how the same asset that was used differently is now able to generate more income in less time, aka more with less, which I love so much, but you really need to think about it. And my goal is to show you how it actually works and how we're able to do this. Again, can you make more with less? This was the predicament we were in, my wife and I. We actually got into Airbnbs about a half a decade ago. And when we got into it, it works. It works if you do the work. Everything works if you do the work. Fix and flipping works. Subject to works. Shout out to Page Mormon. Anything. Multifamily works. But it only works if you're willing to do the work. And so we did the work. The only thing is, turns out there was, well, you can actually set it up remotely, because we did. Setting up out of state. We were actually based out of New York. We invested in Georgia, and then we started to scale our portfolio. We got into Massachusetts and other markets to be determined, right? I'm sure. We actually ended up falling into this place from a place of a need. We were in Airbnb, things were going well, but we weren't getting the margins that some of our peers were getting in other states. But there was a very big difference in the way that they were getting their margins. Quite frankly, they just had spent a lot more money into theirs, and they finished better, and they had all the amenities of the wazoo, from like tiki bars to like pools to you name it. It's things that we didn't have at our properties, and just because at the time it's just not the money that we had, at the time we didn't have the money to invest in those kind of assets. So we thought, how do we position ourselves in a position where we can get more with less, or not so much less, but with what we have, right? How do we get more? And that's how we came across this niche that, when I think about it now, it all makes sense. And at the time, it was just not on our paradigm. And my goal is to change your paradigm, because if you can change your paradigm, you can change your life. And your paradigm is a multitude of ideas fixed in the subconscious mind that we see things one way based on a reality. But your reality is based on personality. If you change your personality, you will change your personal reality. So if you really think about that and you start thinking about, okay, what is it that I'm looking at that perceives to be reality from my paradigm, you can kind of switch then the whole outcome of your business. And that's what we did. We had short-term rentals. We were operating on the short-term rentals. And the fine example that I use is there's someone else on that street that has the exact same type of home that doesn't know how to operate short-term rentals, that's running as a traditional rental of 12-month stays, and they're making less. And maybe that's what they want, but if they don't, it's because they lack the knowledge to be able to get what they want. And so we learned the short-term rental industry, dynamic pricing, furnishing, designing, pre-EMS technology, auto syncing everything, automated messages, cleaners, right, sourcing, like all that stuff, all out of state, all learning how to do that. And we did it, and it was good. But that's what we knew. But then we didn't stop there. What we end up doing was diving a little bit deeper. How can we actually make more with less in a shorter period of amount of time? And we turn to B2B. So what is B2B? Well, let's define what B2C is first, then you'll understand what B2B is. B2C is business to consumer. Before, we were working with guests who are coming, in and out of homes, where they're coming for vacation, they're coming for leisure, they're coming for concerts, they're coming for travel, just complete leisure, or even for business. Even if they're coming for business, it's still business to consumer. We're working with one consumer. That's the person who's traveling. That's a guest. But things quickly changed when we started to work with other businesses, right? And so when we started working with other businesses, what we ended up discovering was that these businesses don't really care how much it costs. They care about solving the problem. And that was kind of like, like a huge, like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that if I name this price and I charge these fees for my time to put this proposal together and to put this contract together, that you're just okay with signing off? And the truth is, they were. And that is when we're like, okay, how do we get more of those? And so this is how we got into the midterm rental space that was very niche to insurance, because a lot of midterm rental is still deal was business to consumers. Like when you think of traveling nurses going on Furnish Finder, that's still a business to consumer, and there is nothing wrong with that. But there would be a fine difference between working with the company to actually relocate traveling nurses versus traveling with the actual travel nurse themselves. And the reason and the main difference with that is that when you're working with a traveling nurse, it's a one-off transaction. Maybe they come back around and they keep your information. Great. Very similar to Airbnb, one-off transaction, business to consumer. Now, if you're in a vacation rental, they might come back every vacation and they might book your property, right? And it goes without saying if they do. And if they don't, great. It's a one-off. It's a one-night stands that I call them. No pun intended there. But that's all it is, right? But then when you go into the business to business instead of business to consumer, when you go to business, it means that these businesses stay in business and keep the lights on and feed their employees by relocating families, by making sure operators like you are occupied. And so it's more important for them to actually fulfill the actual demand and need, and not so much on price. And price, if we know it in economics 101, is all with respect to the actual demand and the supply that's in the marketplace. And if your place happens to be available and it's the only solution that actually meets that family's needs, they're willing to pay you a premium. So when we found that out, we're like, how do we actually get them to start paying us a premium?
If you're currently getting value from watching this video, you'll want to make sure you take a second and click below to grab the midterm rental insurance blueprint to help accelerate your process in being able to land these midterm rental insurance contracts with respect to your marketplace. Make sure you click the button below and grab it and continue on with the gems in this video.
And that's what we did. We started to actually understand the type of asset that they were looking for. 4-bedroom plus bath. That's my sweet spot. You guys know if you're your first time watching this channel, I have tons of videos. I talk about my actual buy box and why I find it to be true and important. It's not because of what I think, it's because of what they're looking for. Anytime they reach out to me, they say, Ruben, here's what we're looking for. And based on that, I just reverse engineer and provide the product and marketplace that they look for. The last thing you want to do is business 101 is provide a product to the marketplace that they don't need, because you think a 1-bedroom is cute, you get a 1-bedroom and there is no need for that, and therefore you don't get paid a premium for having 1-bedroom. And are also with respect to the amount of supply that is in the marketplace with 1-bedrooms, there might be a lot more supply than there is of demand, and therefore now you can't charge a premium, right? But when you're going for a product that is not as highly solicited as possible, not as available as possible, or I should say not as available, it is highly solicited when needed but not as available, then you start putting yourself in the marketplace as a premium product, because there's a large demand for it and low supply. And when you do that and you give them what they need, there is no problem with price. Now, I'm not saying that the price doesn't matter, it still does, but there is terms that there is enough ALE, additional living expenses, there is enough budget for some of these companies to be able to actually do a deal with you, because they're working with a larger budget. And sometimes the amount of time that it takes to actually get the home in good condition after an unforeseen event allows you to actually be able to charge that premium, because they're not going to use a 12 months for the claim, and they have a good amount of budget. Typically it's 25% worth of what the property is worth. So without going into too much detail there, I will say, just if you're like, what is it that you're talking about again? I'm talking about when a family who is displaced due to an unforeseen event, typically they are have their home that's insured, and when their home is insured, what will happen is that once they file a claim due to an unforeseen event like a tree falling in the home, pipes bursting, water damage, etc., they're not allocated a certain amount of funds, which is typically 25% of what the property's dwelling value is. That's an allocated fund called loss of use. That loss of use is used to then for the insurance company to work with a relocation company to relocate them and find them an alternative living solution for them to live in until the work is done. If it takes a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, they will be paying. The family won't be paying. The insurance company will be paying after the relocation family has found a family or an operator like you who's watching this video to be able to source them. Now, there's a specific kind of product that works, like a 4-bedroom plus is in a sweet spot because it's a larger problem. It's a harder comp to be able to find in the marketplace to be able to provide that kind of inventory. Hotels don't do that. Even hotel suites don't really meet the needs of having a dining room, living room, fenced in backyard, etc. And therefore now you have a temporary furnished accommodation that again isn't available on Airbnb when they look, because most Airbnb operators who have decent properties are actually booked. And on Furnish Finder, there is actually statistics that show that majority of the homes there are typically 3 bedrooms or less. there's a very low inventory for 4 to 5 bedrooms, which means that when they find you, they're willing to pay you a premium for doing so. And so it's important for you to understand market dynamics, understand the product need, the kind of product that you need, understand what the needs is of these corporations, and understand that you should be working with corporations because they will continue to come back to you. This is what I call an exponential relationship. And I want business to be easier, right? I want extended stays, 30-day stays or plus. I want exponential relationships from one to many. So you have a relationship with a company and their colleagues, their multiple colleagues are going to now keep you top of mind and send you more families. Because what do they do for a living? Relocate families for a living. And I want it to be easy. That's the third E, right? Extensions, exponential growth, and I want it to be easy, right? I want it to be easy, and easy comes with a high leverage activities when you have the right product and the right understanding, the right knowledge. So if you're watching this, you're actually ahead of the game because a lot of people don't understand how this works. But that is the ultimate leverage that you can pull in order to make a lot of money in a short period of time, rather than a little bit of money in a long period of time, right? And that is the wisdom that I've been able to learn, acquire experience, and help others be able to experience the same things in this space by having this knowledge, know-how, and apply a principle that will always work in economics with respect to what the marketplace needs. You have a good product, there's a low supply of it, you can charge a premium. And that is how you make a lot of money in a short period of time by going B2B in the midterm rental space. Now, without further ado, it is your opportunity, duty, and obligation to learn the right tools, like you can on this channel for free 99, to be able to serve some more families. So let's go serve some families at scale, shall we? If you got value from this video, make sure you check out my B2B versus B2C, the midterm rental game changer.